Hi! In today's video, I am going to show you how to do some felt embroidery. My name is Dana Harris Seeger, and this is my Baltic handmade life. Okay, so to begin with, I have some materials, and I have laid out my design on this pattern paper. You could just use regular paper, but I like the Swedish paper because it's transparent and flexible. So it's like kind of non-woven fabric. It doesn't tear that easily, but you can draw on it, obviously. So I used that as my pattern, and I drew all the designs that I wanted, the embroidery and the felt pieces. And what I'm going to do is use this as a template for placing on my fabric and then also for cutting out my felt pieces. So I've got some wool felt. You don't have to use wool felt, but I like the look and feel of it. It's more kind of natural feeling, and it comes in really pretty colors. Today I'm working with a blue and yellow or blue and gold kind of theme. It comes in different weights, and this is a little bit of a thinner weight because it's just going to be appliqué. I don't want it to be super stiff. Plus I'm going to be ironing on a fusible interfacing to the back. So again, the thinner I can get the felt, kind of the better. But the nice thing about the felt as opposed to fabric is that it doesn't unravel. So you can cut it into whatever shape you want, and the ends you won't have like raggedy, stringy ends. And then I'm going to be using, these are my templates. So I retrace the designs, each individual design onto the Swedish tracing paper, and cut them out individually so that I can put that on the felt and cut those out, because I'm making 4 panels. I'll make 1 today, but ultimately I wanted to be able to reproduce each piece 4 times. And then I've got some different yarns and threads that I'm going to be using to embroider. So I've got this wool yarn. It's very fine. It's like a fingering weight, or crewel yarn, C-R-E-W-E-L, crewel weight yarn. And I like that for some of the parts. And then I've also got this DMC embroidery thread, which is cotton. So there's wool and cotton, and mostly just because of the colors that I had on hand. And this is a little bit thicker, so for the parts that are going on top of the felt, I thought this one would look nicer. And then the parts that are just going on the fabric, I'll probably do in this embroidery thread. And then just a regular embroidery needle, one that will fit this thread. And the base fabric, which is this, oops. The base fabric is this cotton linen blend. It's like a lightweight canvas. It's not a heavy duty canvas. So it's pretty thin, but it's sturdy and fairly open weave, so it'll be easy to do the embroidery on, while also being kind of a nice shade. So the last thing that I'm going to be using is this Fusible web. It's like Steam-A-Seam is one of the brands, but it's got Fusible, which is like iron-on glue on both sides. One side has paper, so what I do is I'll fuse this side to the felt, and then I'll peel off the paper backing and fuse it to the fabric. And then since it's fused, I'll be able to embroider without having to worry about it shifting and falling off. It'll all just be in place, super easy. So I'll demonstrate that process, but I like this step for doing embroidery with fabric or like applique or felt. So the first step is going to be to seam the piece because I don't want to get all my nice appliques on and embroider and then have it run off the seam. So the first step is just to iron. And that ensures that everything gets put down in the, without any creases, in the proper place. And if I'm going to be making something like a curtain that I'm probably not going to wash, you don't really have to pre-wash your fabrics. If you are thinking that you might, though, I would pre-wash, especially with cotton, because it can shrink and change shape. So if you're going to wash it after you create it, I would pre-wash the fabric. So now, so I can ensure that I've got everything placed correctly, I've already cut, I'm adding a lot of material up here for the pocket of the curtain rod. And then this is the fold. And then I've got a hem that's about 5/8 of an inch. So I'm going to make sure that I pin that accurately. And it looks like I've got some extra here. So I'm going to make sure that when I stitch that I have my seam where it needs to be so that when I start placing my applique pieces using this template that nothing gets out of place or accidentally runs off the piece, off the curtain. So I have my pins and I'm going to start with the sides. And then I like to do everything congruently, so I'm going to flip it over and do it the same on both sides. Just using a little steam there. Okay, and now flip it back over. Set it back up. And then this is where my seam is going to be. You can make your seams as big or as small as you want. And then I'm just going to stitch along that line on the sewing machine. Same thing when I do the top. I'm going to use my template and just stitch. And the reason I do this sides first is because you want the top open for sticking the curtain rod through. Bottom doesn't really matter, but then I'll just take it to the sewing machine and do a simple straight stitch. I can make my stitch length longer because I'm just hemming, I'm not joining two pieces seams together. Okay, that concludes the sewing machine portion of our program. And now I'm just checking to make sure, let's see, that everything is lining up, which it looks like it is. And now I can begin cutting out my shapes. and ironing on the backing webbing, fusible webbing for so I can start attaching them to the fabric. So to do that, I've got my, see, there's my needle. Got some leftover pieces, and when you're using wool, you don't want to do the same heat as the cotton linen blend, so I'm doing wool on here and letting it cool down a little bit. Otherwise you'll burn it. And I also really like to do steam for this process. So I'm going to make sure that I have enough water in my iron before we start fusing. All right, so now that I have everything set, the first step is going to be to trace onto the fusible paper my little designs here. So I just lay out, let's see if I can get a bit of this. So I'm going to lay out my template, my little pattern piece, use a ballpoint pen, and just trace around the design. And if it was a specific orientation that you wanted, this is going to be the back side, or what gets fused to the fabric, so it's going to be a mirror image. So if it's not something that's symmetrical like this, if it's something like this, then you want to make sure that you do it face down, so it's like a mirror image. And then with paper scissors, I would cut out this whole thing. If you've got a lot of designs, you can just trace right now and either cut very specifically out, or you can cut out a general shape, but that wastes a little bit. And then we'll cut that out with our scissors. This is the tedious part, one of them, because I got a lot of shapes here. So then wherever it'll fit, that's where I will place it on my felt. So I think I want to put it right here so I can maximize my felt. And I'm putting it paper side up and fusible side down. And I'm going to use my iron. I'm not going to add the steam yet until it seems like it's not sticking. And just make sure that it's stuck down there. And then you can cut out with fabric scissors, cut out that shape. Then I leave the paper on until I'm ready to go place it down onto the fabric. But then what I'll do is peel the paper backing off so that you just have that fusible membrane, and then you place it onto the fabric and fuse again. And that's where the template also comes in handy, because I'll be placing all these little pieces on the fabric. So I'm just going to do that to all the little shapes, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so here we have the finished sewn curtain. I have my template, and I fold it in half so I know exactly where I'm going to place things. And now I'm going to start ironing on the my little applique pieces. So first thing I need to do is take the paper backing off which is always easier said than done. And you can see that there's the sort of fusible clear mesh on there. And that's what we're going to put face down on the fabric. So I'm just going to kind of position it on here and then pull the template away and then use my iron. Same temperature, the wool setting. If you have synthetic felt, you want to make sure you do it even lighter with the synthetic setting. And it hasn't stuck quite enough, so I might add a little bit of steam at this point. There. It might not totally completely stick, which is why we're going to be embroidering. But this will really help keep it from moving around as we embroider. So you can either work one, end to middle or middle to end, but basically I'm going to be peeling the paper, placing them, and then kind of pulling the thing away, or you can do it the opposite way where you place it and then kind of lay it on and make sure that it's correct. Of course, I have to pull the paper off.